We have approximately 1,400 targets here in Maine, ranging from a child, drug trafficking, sexual assaults, simple assaults, driving while under the influence.
America, after years of massive welfare fraud in Maine, ICE launched Operation Catch of the Day, targeting 1,400 illegal aliens in the state.
Homeland Security today says 70% of ICE arrests are criminal illegal aliens who have been charged or convicted of a crime in the United States.
But here's what's wild. While ICE is arresting rapists and drug dealers, Maine Democrats are organizing walkouts and calling this fascism. Governor Janet Mills is holding press conferences demanding ICE show her warrants. This is the same Janet Mills who allegedly let Chinese companies infiltrate Maine farmland and run illegal grow operations for years.
If somebody has evidence of criminal activity, we want to hear about it. But that's not what we're hearing about from their families and their communities are in fear. That's not right.
So let me get this straight. Mills is worried about illegal criminals being in fear, but she wasn't worried about Chinese money laundering operations in her own state. The hypocrisy here is stunning. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me break down exactly what ICE and who ICE is targeting in Maine, because the media wants you to think they're rounding up innocent families. That, my friends, is an absolute lie. These are convicted criminals with serious charges.
This Sudanese man has more than a dozen criminal convictions in Maine, according to the Homeland Security Department. Those include aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and violation of protection orders.
A dozen criminal convictions, including aggravated assault, false imprisonment, a violation of a protective order. A federal immigration judge ordered his final removal, but until now, he was roaming free thanks to Maine sanctuary policies.
And two Ecuadorian nationals also caught in troubled waters, facing drunk driving charges. One crossed the border illegally during the Biden administration and was later released.
Two Ecuadorian nationals facing drunk driving charges. One crossed the border illegally during the Biden administration, of course, and was released, obviously, into our country. Now he's driving drunk in Maine, putting American families at risk.
ICE says it has launched what it calls Operation Catch of the Day, in which it arrested illegal immigrants on charges including aggravated assault and endangering the welfare of a child.
These aren't people who overstayed their visas and are working construction jobs. These are PDFs. They're criminals who committed violent crimes against Americans. Now let's talk about how Maine's Democrat leadership is responding to ICE removing these criminals off and out of their communities. Spoiler alert, they're furious that criminals are being arrested.
If you're not willing to fight for your rights, you will lose them. If enough of us aren't willing to stand at the front and take a rubber bullet to the face for our rights, we will lose them.
Bro, chat. These are illegals. They don't have any rights to be here. They're not American citizens. They're foreign nationals who entered our country illegally, then committed crimes. What rights are you fighting for, Jody? The right to grape people? The right to drunk drive and kill American families? Kudos, Judy. Kudos.
The group says they're walking out to protest growing fascism, they say, as well as misogyny, racism, xenophobia, and violence in the country.
They're calling this the Free America White Walkout to protest growing fascism, misogyny, racism, xenophobia, and violence. But here's the actual violence. The people with dozens of assault convictions, the Ecuadorian drunk drivers, the people charged with endangering children.
The operation name that they're using is really dehumanizing. It is creating fear and intimidation among our communities.
Former Lewiston City Council member Shafia Khalid said the operation called Catch of the Day is really dehumanizing and creating fear and intimidation. I, for one, personally think it's catchy. It's a quick pun on a lobster catch. Makes me want a lobster roll. And speaking of lobster rolls, let me know in the chat what type of lobster roll you guys like. Do you like the Maine style lobster roll that's traditionally cold, mixed with mayonnaise, sometimes with celery or lemon? Or do you like the hot one, the Connecticut style one? Warm, toasted bun with a little butter and mayo? Me, myself, I'm a Connecticut style guy myself. But seriously, all lobster puns aside, you're worried about the name of an operation while ICE is arresting people who graped people. Your priorities here are completely backwards. Now let's dig into what Miss Khalid actually is saying, because her claims fall apart under the slightest scrutiny.
Parents have not been able to pick up their kids from school. They have not been able to go grocery shopping. The streets are completely empty. Downtown Lewiston is completely empty.
She claims parents can't pick up their kids from school, can't go to grocery stores, and the streets are completely empty because everyone is terrified of ICE. But my friends, the chat, here's my question. If you're here legally, why are you hiding? If you are a law-abiding immigrant who came through the proper channels and hasn't committed any crimes, ICE ain't looking for you. They're targeting the 1,400 people with criminal records.
They're going door to door here in Lewiston, of course, in other parts of the state. But when she opened the door, they said that they were police officers. They didn't identify themselves as federal agents. They didn't identify themselves as ICE agents.
But wait, if this woman was targeted for arrest, that means she was on the list. She was on the list of criminal aliens. She was probably illegal. And here's what Miss Khalid, another one, really doesn't want you to talk about. Many of these people came here illegally by paying smugglers, often connected to cartels. And now they're working to pay off those particular debts. That, my friends, is not asylum. That is human trafficking. Now we got to talk about Janet Mills, because her press conference demanding ICE show warrants is very, very rich, coming from somebody with her particular track record.
For the most part, we're hearing about people who have not been engaged in criminal activity, who are being torn from their families, from their schools, from their businesses, and who are in fear.
Mills claims for the most part, ICE is arresting people who haven't engaged in criminal activity and are being torn from their families. That is an obvious lie. ICE explicitly stated they're targeting people with criminal records, ranging from rape, drug trafficking, all this other stuff. The Deputy Assistant Director of ICE said 70% of arrests are criminal illegal aliens who have been charged or convicted of crimes.
She also said she's skeptical that there might actually be 1,400 illegal immigrants living in Maine with criminal records. And even if there were, what if they've served their time? Why are they being pursued? Are they fugitive?
Let me explain something to Miss Janet Mills. When you're in the country illegally, you committed a crime. You don't just serve your time and get to stay. You get deported. That's how immigration law works. You don't have the right to be here. You can't do this in any other country.
The governor allowed a bill to become law in December that prohibits Maine law enforcement from cooperating with any federal investigation activity over immigration.
Even though the law isn't technically in effect yet, she's already instructed Maine state police officers to abide by it. So Miss Mills is actively obstructing federal immigration law from removing criminals from her state. But let's talk about what Mills wasn't concerned about for years. While Janet Mills is crying about ICE arresting criminals, she spent years allegedly allowing Chinese companies to infiltrate Maine farmland and run illegal marijuana grow operations that were laundering money.
Portland's mayor is blasting the crackdown, saying this: "We are a welcoming city. There is no evidence, though, of unchecked criminal activity in our community requiring a disproportionate presence of federal agents."
But that's exactly what Maine has had for years: unchecked criminal activity in the form of Chinese-funded illegal grow operations. If you haven't seen that video, I cover it in full detail. It'll be somewhere in the link above or in the description down below. The reports indicate that Chinese nationals were buying up Maine farmland and converting it into massive marijuana grow operations that violated state and federal law. The money from these particular operations was being funneled back to China, and Maine officials did absolutely nothing to stop it.
I asked her right at the start, what does she know? And it turns out not very much. It turns out still that her phone calls, her administration's phone calls to the Trump administration, are still not being returned.
Mills complains that the Trump administration isn't returning her phone calls, but maybe, just maybe, the Trump administration doesn't trust a governor who allegedly turned a blind eye to Chinese money laundering. Let's talk about what Operation Catch of the Day is actually accomplishing, because the media obviously isn't going to tell you this part.
ICE saying today Operation Catch of the Day is targeting criminal illegal migrants in that state. Now, it's not clear as of tonight how long DHS plans to keep ICE agents on the ground there in Maine.
ICE has already made dozens arrests in the first few days. These people were convicted of crimes and ordered deportation by immigration judges, but were allowed to stay in Maine thanks to sanctuary city policies.
But ICE was here and they brought somebody into the federal courthouse. This is ICE says they've arrested 50 so far, and they're targeting 1,400.
The latest reports, ICE has arrested 50 people and is targeting 1,400 in total. Every single one of these arrests represents a criminal who was living in American communities, putting particular families at risk.
Deputy Assistant Director of ICE, Patricia Hyde, says that illegal criminal aliens on the list are also from Senegal, Somalia, Honduras, Guatemala, and the Congo. Portland's mayor is blasting the crackdown.
They entered the country illegally, committed crimes, and were protected by Maine sanctuary policies. Now they're finally being held accountable. America, after years of massive welfare fraud in Maine, ICE launched Operation Catch of the Day, targeting 1,400 criminal aliens. These are convicted criminals. But Maine Democrats are organizing walkouts and calling this fascism. Activists are complaining that the operation name is dehumanizing while defending people who grape people. Governor Janet Mills is demanding warrants while she allegedly spent years allowing Chinese companies to run illegal grow operations and launder money through Maine. The hypocrisy here is at a level 10. Mills wasn't worried about Chinese infiltration of Maine farmland. She wasn't worried about illegal marijuana operations, but now, all of a sudden, she's deeply concerned about ICE arresting convicted criminals. The Trump administration is doing what Maine leadership refused to do: protect American communities from violent criminals, and Democrats are furious about it. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.